Pile drivers and drills and scoop shovels. Tools of every construction camp, oil field, and mining town. But here they are right on the main street of one of Canada's great cities. A city growing like mad, bursting at the seams. Toronto.
I'm here at the base of the CN Tower, the tallest freestanding structure in the entirety of North America. Beating out major landmarks like One World Trade and the Empire State Building, the CN Tower reaches an impressive 553 meters tall and stands out as an iconic part of the Toronto skyline. Just looking at the CN Tower, you're struck immediately by how odd it is. Sloped concrete sides tapering out into a Y-shaped base with just enough space in the midsection to fit elevators and very little else. The tower is markedly different from most other buildings its size. Places like the US World Trade Center or the Burj Khalifa look almost nothing like it. Focused on providing office space or accommodations, they're considerably wider, covered in glass windows, and seem at a glance a lot more functional. Contrary to this, the only parts of the CN Tower which are accessible to the public are in the pods at the top. But its odd shape overshadows an even odder legacy, because despite being built in the heart of one of Canada's biggest cities, the CN Tower was built by Canada National Rail, an at the time government-owned rail company. On the surface, the whole story makes no sense. Why is a rail company responsible for what was at the time the tallest freestanding structure on the planet? Why does North America's tallest building even exist? Unlike the Canadian center of finance capital that it is today, Toronto in the 60s was a very different city. During the post-war years, the city saw an economic boom, particularly in the automotive industry, which combined with immigration to drive massive growth. The city was well suited for manufacturing too. Even before the boom, it served as a major regional hub for several rail carriers, with stations and rail yards taking up much of the space along the shores of Lake Ontario. Industry at the time was the face of Toronto, but that wasn't to last.
If you know anything about the 60s, you'll know that it was billed as the age of the automobile. During the automobile boom, trains started being seen as a less attractive form of transportation and logistics. So railway companies were left with more land than they knew what to do with. And a couple of the executives started getting big ideas.
They decided on this: Metro Center, a colossal development proposal aimed to revitalize the lakeshore area. The idea was to build a city within a city, replacing all the roundhouses and rail yards with shiny new office buildings, hotels, and conference centers, building up central Toronto in the 60s image of a modern city.
And so, with commerce and industry throughout the whole country pacing this new growth, comes Canada's first subway, part of Toronto's civic-owned transport system, planned to open in 1952. Here is the most colorful evidence of the boom: the city's bold and costly answer to congestion that was never thought of when downtown Toronto was laid out more than a century ago.
For anybody who's ever been to Toronto, the CN Tower stands out immediately as the defining landmark. It can be seen from almost anywhere, peeking through gaps in the skyscrapers and acting almost as a navigational beacon, helping you locate yourself no matter what part of the city you're in. But it wasn't always that way. Back in the 60s, the city of Toronto was suffering from success. The city was building skyscrapers left, right, and center, and that resulted in a couple unexpected problems. TV and radio signals do an excellent job of traveling through the air, but stick a giant building in the way, and suddenly you run into some trouble. This proved a problem for the CBC, Canada's national TV and radio broadcaster. As Toronto grew upwards, more and more parts of the city found themselves in signal dead zones. The problem was, radio towers couldn't be made tall enough to avoid reflecting off the growing skyline. So, with customer complaints mounting, they approached CN with a proposal. They asked for CN to include an addition to Metro Center, a 553-meter tall spire rising from the shores of Lake Ontario, housing countless radio and TV antennas. Considerably taller than any of the surrounding buildings, it served as the ideal solution for the reception problem. And while most of Metro Center never made it out of proposals, what came to be known as the CN Tower broke ground on February the 6th, 1973. Going up with minimal complications, the tower opened in June of 1976 to international acclaim. Upon its completion, it became the tallest structure not only in North America, but in the entire world for 32 years until it was surpassed by the Burj Khalifa in 2007. On top of this, its tourism draw was immediate and immense. Beyond its functions as a radio antenna, CN opted to include several attractions in the pod at the top: sightseeing, glass floors, and a fine dining restaurant. The draw was such that within just 15 years of the tower opening, it had already repaid its construction cost off tourism alone. These days, the CN Tower still operates as a radio antenna, but its popularity as an attraction makes it so that broadcasting functions make up for less than 1% of total revenue. And even though it's no longer the world's tallest building, it stands as a Toronto staple, a structure built long before its time that will remain an iconic part of the city skyline long into the future. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more new videos every single week.